Now that we have the character ready to be implemented, what we're going to do is bring in our Myro controller essential scripts from Unity package from our Google Drive. You'll be able to access this from the Google Drive. I have it local on my computer because I made it. So I'll click and drag and drop this asset package onto my assets folder. You'll see that I have a set of scripts all located in the class 3 movement and camera control folder. I have an F-look control variant, a Myro control variant, basic animator, camera control, Myro animator, Myro controller, and Myro movement. I'll explain what each of these do after we have set up our character. Look at that. All right, so select your Myro prefab and let's get the character ready to go. The first thing we're going to add, I'll go to my scripts folder and add a Myro controller. The script cannot be found. Let's debug. It looks like what happened was I did not include the cursor control DLL, which is an official plugin from Microsoft. So that is now a part of the package. That was causing an error, which meant we couldn't compile and rebuild the assemblies. I'll select my Myro prefab and add the Myro controller script. Perfect. I hope nobody downloaded it from the Google Drive before I recorded this video. All right, let us continue going. We've got the Myro controller, and what we're also going to do is add a component, a character controller. The character controller is a very useful tool for moving the character around, where you can use delta movement, but it plays nicely with the physics system. The only change I'm going to make to this character controller is I will set the center of the Y value to 1, meaning now the bottom of the capsule collider attached to the character controller is right on the ground, right at the base of the character. Let's keep going. I'm going to add a Myro animator. What this contains is a reference to an animator. What we want to do is open up the hierarchy, find the purple child object that contains an animator component. I will click and drag purple into the Myro animator's this animator field. I'm also going to add Myro movement. This is part of the movement functionality, and the only thing we're going to want to change is the jump power. I'm going to set that to 12. We want to make sure that we have the animator and the controller assigned, so we're going to select the Myro prefab object and self-assign it. And the last thing we want is we will open the ability variant scripts, derived ability variants, and find the F-look control variant. What this is this is a separate script that the Myro control will use to control the character when we press F. We just want to make sure F-look is assigned, so click and drag your Myro prefab to the Myro controller's F-look control variant and hit play. As you can see, we have a character that moves around. So what's going on here is when we look down, there's a little bit of a bug with the camera, and that's because there is a raycast for the camera controller that is hitting the player itself, the player's collider. So in order to set this character up so that the raycast doesn't interfere with it, we're going to use a layer that is ignored by the camera's raycast. So we'll go to our layer in the top right and add a layer. We'll go to the user layer number 8 and hit and type player. That adds the player layer as an option. So now we can add player to layer 8. This is a number that was picked arbitrary. You could pick, yes, change all of the children. You could pick any one of these layers and you just have to change the variable in the script to choose for your raycast to skip over a layer. It uses something called bit masking. And while we're selecting the player prefab, let's go ahead and change the tag to player. Now at this point, we can hit play. And do some jumping. Cool. Looks like he's staying gliding just a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is play around with my Myro animator controller, go from glide to land, and say, let's go ahead and start that transition a lot earlier. If gliding is false. Oh, you know what? This is the problem. Gliding was set to false. So even though we weren't gliding, we were using the gliding animation. So let's set gliding to true. Okay, that will be the debug. Let's hit play. Cool. So you'll notice that when I click in, my cursor goes away. This is how it works with Spyro. And what we're doing is we are using that cursor control DLL in order to keep control over the cursor. Now we have a functioning Spyro character. I'm going to fix the animator back to where we had it because when we landed, this is too much of a gap here. So let's turn the exit time off and give it a little bit. This is how you debug. You tweak and play. Perfect. I don't know about you guys, I'm happy with this. Now we're ready to play around and build a bit of a bigger level. Before we actually build the bigger level though, I'm going to explain what some of these scripts are actually doing.